always wanted to make that sound, man. I wanted to buy a wah-wah when I was 12. Interestingly, my first experience, I guess, exposure to Donny Hathaway's music was as a like 10 or 11-year-old. Somehow I got a bass guitar. My father, I was a musician. When you're a musician, you don't choose music. Music chooses you. So you're beating on stuff. You play the piano at church, whatever you can do. And my father had a fellow employee who had a bass in his attic. He said, "You know what, your son likes music. How about I give him this bass? I'm not playing it." So that's how I started playing the bass, and I haven't kept it up. Thank God I have a son now who plays bass. But I heard this song on a Donny Hathaway record, an old live record, Everything is Everything. And we actually are recording that song on this project. But that bass solo was the first piece of music that I learned, myself. I sat there and figured it out on an instrument that I didn't know. So basically I was getting to know the instrument, and at the same time I'm hearing some of the greatest musicians in the world, playing R&B music. And Donny Hathaway's phrasing, the way he sings, really, captivated me even then. And 2 years later, I started playing the saxophone. So naturally, the way that I approach playing the saxophone has everything to do with Donny Hathaway. I don't know if you ever played the saxophone, but the fact is that his vocal styling, the way that he phrases melodies, is absolutely what I attempt to do.
The concept of this project is basically a Donny Hathaway songbook, or tribute to Donny Hathaway, celebration of the music of Donny Hathaway. It's Kirk interpreting music that either Donny wrote and performed himself, some of them songs that he wrote for other artists like Roberta Flack and Cold Blood and artists like that, and then also songs that he performed and made famous that he didn't necessarily write, like Leon Russell's A Song for You, Van McCoy's Giving Up, some of those kinds of songs. So it's a combination of songs that are associated with Donny one way or another. And the reason that it makes so much sense for Kirk is the similarities between Kirk and Donny.
Anyone who is familiar at all with Kirk Whalum's music, they tend to describe him as a singer who plays the saxophone. So to hear him interpret Donny's stuff is amazing, because he brings his own voice to it. But in many ways, you don't miss the singer.
Donny Hathaway, when you study his music, you are getting a wealth of information from various places. Gospel, soul, jazz. Even if you listen to an album like Extensions of a Man, you're hearing these elements of his great arranging skills. You could tell he listened to Stravinsky, he listened to Debussy. He was a musician who was the full 360-degree circle, and his voice is just, I don't really need to talk about that. Anybody who's ever heard a Donny Hathaway recording knows that his voice was so angelic.
An artist like Donny Hathaway has touched so many people. He's touched so many of us as artists. It doesn't matter, if you're a drummer or a singer or a bass player or a saxophone player, you'll love Donny Hathaway. There's something that he gave us that transcends, music. It's spiritual. It's something profound. It's something that you get. There's an immediacy to what he's trying to convey that impacts you, and so it's almost like when you do a Donny Hathaway record, right away you're connecting with not just the listeners, those who are familiar with this music and those who may not be, but you're connecting with every single musician who's ever heard him. It's like you can't name me a musician who has heard Donny Hathaway and wasn't profoundly impacted. Donny Hathaway is a unifying figure in all of this thing we call, soul music.